I want to just review a little bit what we did last night. We talked about how to do Bible studies, and I talked about the acronym SAM: summarize, ask questions, make an appeal. So when you go and do a Bible study with somebody, you would give them a printed Bible study, let's say on the second coming. You would expect them to read that Bible study during the week. And when you come back to their house, you would have a few verses about your topic that make sense to you, that you own. And then you would share those verses with the person and ask questions of them about the verse. So if you read like John 14, 1 through 3, and it said, Jesus is coming again, he promised he would come again, you would ask the person questions like, what does this verse say to you? How do you feel about this verse? How do you feel about Jesus coming back? According to this verse, who's he coming back for? And you just simply ask questions and get them to answer. By your questions, you can find out if they studied the lesson that you left them or not, right? Your questions will diagnose whether they understood. You understand? So you just simply ask questions. What do you think? And if they say if you were studying the second coming and they said something like, well, he's coming back secretly, what would you know? They either read the lesson and they didn't understand it, or they read the lesson and they're still stuck in their belief about the rapture. All right, so you're questioning them to let them verbalize what they believe and what they think. And in the process, you can share with them and help them. So if you take the topic and summarize it for yourself, what key verses really nail down this truth for me? What are my key verses about this topic? You might have different verses than me. You might have different verses than both of us. It doesn't matter what your verses are, as long as they're verses that really help you understand that topic. And those are the ones you share. And then you make an appeal at the end. So a Bible study doesn't have to take very long. You're simply helping the person, giving them a chance to express their beliefs, finding out what they believe, and kind of putting them on the truth train. You're not going to explain the second coming or any other topic totally in depth with a person. They're not ready. They're not going to seminary. Okay? You're just getting them to the point. It's kind of like teaching anatomy to a person. You want them to understand the basic structure. We have bones. We have muscles, right? We have a nervous system. We have a brain. And when you do Bible studies, that's kind of what you're getting the person to see. Yes, there's a structure in the Bible. There's truth in the Bible. And they will spend the rest of their life, just like we will, understanding all the minute details. When you go out to give Bible studies, you're not trying to express everything you know about everything. I've known people that go do a Bible study and they say, it took 4 hours at my Bible study. It was great. I told them everything I knew. No, you don't do it. Were you going to say something?
Is that typical for many of us when we first, gain a knowledge of these things, to be so excited about it, we just want to share so much, and that has been a challenge for me early on. When I began to study for myself and learn, I could see all these verses that apply to it, and it's so exciting. But then I do realize when I get in front of, someone to do a Bible study, you're right, they just can't handle. It's overload to do that much. And a little nibble is better. But is that typical for us when we get excited about it? Do you want to share too much?
Yeah.
Or is that just a problem that people like me have?
No, it's typical. And what we usually do is, we're converted. We understand God and the Bible better than we ever have before. And we go to our unconverted family members and friends, and we try to stuff the whole loaf of bread down their throat. And they're like, get away from me. And we turn people off. And God didn't even do us that way. I would bet that it was a long process to get us to that point. And then we turn around and try to do the whole thing. I used to work at a health food store. I was a baker there when I was doing Bible work to try to have enough money to live on. And this lady came in and she said, I'm going to get healthy. I want to buy a loaf of whole grain bread and some honey. Because I heard honey was better than sugar. Well, it's just sugar, right? Processed by bees. So she bought the whole loaf of bread. She bought the jar of honey. She came back the next day. This is a true story. She came back the next day. She demanded her money back. And I'm like, why would we give your money back? She said, I ate the whole loaf of bread and I ate the whole jar of honey and I feel sick. I'm like, duh. Of course you feel sick. But that's kind of what we do to people. We need to have patience. The Bible says, give us this day our daily bread. So what does that mean? It's just give me enough for the day. When you give Bible studies, you're going to have people that are eager to hear, and they want to know more. Don't do it. Give them their daily bread. If you go too fast and too far, they will choke. So keep it at hand. Just tell them we're going to study that. We'll study that next week. Or we're going to study that in 2 or 3 weeks. So hang in there. It's better that you leave somebody's house after doing a Bible study where they're eager to know more than you've choked them to death. And if you spend more than an hour at somebody's house in this day and age doing a Bible study, when you're ready to go there next week, guess what they're going to say? Can't do it. Don't have time. You were here for 4 hours last week. I don't have 4 hours. Because after all, we are all very busy. We are very busy, and we don't have that much time. So I would say keep your Bible studies to like a half an hour. And if you have a few verses and you really understand those verses, you can easily do a Bible study in a half an hour with somebody. And remember this, I said assume intelligence. But you are going to meet people that can't read. And if you give Bible studies to somebody that can't read, you're going to have to read the lesson to them. You're going to have to read to them because they can't read. And there are a lot of people that can't read. And when you go do a Bible study with somebody, you're going to assume they're intelligent, but you're not going to put them on the spot. So I would never say in a Bible study, hey, we're studying John 14, you read the verse. Don't do that. And don't do that in your Sabbath school classes or your Bible study classes. It's called the crunch factor. If you put people on the spot and make them uncomfortable, why are they going to want to come back? You want to reduce crunch factors. And it's the same thing in our church. We want to reduce all the crunch factors that we can reduce. So that's why somebody walks in the door and you say, hey, write your name here. Give me your address and your phone number. Okay, that's a crunch factor. We're very particular about writing our name and our address and our phone number. If I would have walked in your church today and you said, somebody at the door greeted me and said, here, write your name and your address and your phone number, I would say no. Right? Wouldn't you? And put your credit card number on there too. We need to reduce crunch factors for babies. Just, who's a visitor here? Stand up and give us your name and tell us where you're from. That's a crunch factor. Don't mortify me that way and put me on the spot. Right? Even today, like in your potluck, you said all visitors go first. That's kind of a crunch factor. I'm a visitor. I did not go first. It's a crunch factor. We need to be conscious of that. So we don't want any of those. When you're in a Bible study, you say, let's go to the book of John. Tell the person where it is. Did you notice I did that? Where's it at in the Bible? Go to the book of John. Go to chapter 14. Don't give the verse. Give the person a chance to find the book of John. Give the person a chance to find chapter 14. There are a lot of people, they have no clue what even a chapter is in the Bible. People, the younger people are today, the more ignorant they are of the Bible. So you're going to have to be more patient. They don't read the Bible, they don't know the Bible, they haven't been taught the Bible. So we need to be more conscious of that. So give the chapter. Then when they get to, look around. If you're teaching a small group, look around. Make sure everybody's at the chapter. Then give the verse. Because what happens if you say John 14, 1-3, the people that understand the Bible and know the Bible, they're already there, already read the verse, and their mind is off into another place. And the people that can't find the chapter and verse, they're struggling and they're stressing, and oh, she's going to read the verse before I can even get there. Really, you've lost everybody. So give people a time to get there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So give people the lesson. Give them a chance to read the material before you have the Bible study with them. Then go to their house or go to your, work room or wherever you're going for the Bible study, and then share your verses with them. And don't just tell them everything that you know. Try to draw the answers out of them. You're not Mr. and Mrs. Information. You're trying to ask questions. If you don't know how to ask questions, get a red letter Bible and write down and read and write down all the questions Jesus asked. If you do that, you'll find out he asked more questions than he gave answers. And there was a reason for that. He was trying to draw out from the people in his day the thought processes so they could hear themselves speak. Have you ever said something to a friend, let's say, and then after you said it, you realized how stupid it was? I mean, when you go to a counselor, you're talking to the counselor and you're hearing yourself speak, and it helps you because your counselor is like a sounding board and you're hearing yourself speak. And that's kind of what you want a Bible study to be, where people can talk and you're letting them speak and you're listening to what they say. And when they're deviating off the path, you can take them back to Scripture and help them to see what God's view is. If you're going to work for God and go out into the harvest and rescue souls for God, if you've made a decision and that's what you're going to do, and you have a heart for that, and you realize that God does have a lot of children out there that are ready for harvest, then something is going to happen to you. The devil is not willing or wanting you to work for God. The devil is perfectly happy for you to play church. As long as we're locked up in the church, playing church, and so busy doing our church work, the devil could care less. But when we go out to work in the harvest, he's gonna up his game because he wants to discourage you from playing and working in the harvest. So our objective really as Christians is to seek and to save the lost. Our objective as Christians is not to do church. You understand the difference? I mean, we do church, but we do church as part of seeking to save the lost. So this is a hospital. People can come in here and find healing and help and encouragement. It's not our sole reason to exist, though, church. 7 days a week, we ought to be out working in the harvest. And if you're going to do that, then you need to be aware of something. And you need to beware of something. And Jesus warned his disciples. He said, I'm sending you out into the harvest. You're going to go out into the harvest. You're going to be like sheep, and there are wolves out there in the harvest. And before he sent them out, he told them he wanted them to beware of something, and I want to talk about that this afternoon. He said, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. Two different things, the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. Jesus warned them, I want you to be careful. He said it in another place. Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the doctrine of the Sadducees. So there were the teachings of the Herodians. There were the teachings of the Sadducees. There were the teachings of the Pharisees. And then there was the teaching of Jesus. And Jesus had taught his disciples, and he said, I've taught you these things. Now go out and do this work. The harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few, but as you do it, be careful of these things. So I want to talk about these things because what's happening in our church today, history has a nasty way of repeating itself. So what's happening in our church today is the same thing that happened in the early church. And the climate within our church, we live in Laodicea. There's a certain climate within our church. We need to be careful. We need to be aware. Jesus had to deal with, in his day, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Herodians. Jesus had to deal with it. Sometimes people have complained to me, well, you don't know, my church is horrible, and people are mean there, and I don't want to go to church. Well, was there anybody ever drag you out and stone you? That's what Jesus' church was like. You stand up to read scripture, and they drag you out and going to throw you over a cliff. That's what Jesus had to face. I mean, there is no church today that's as bad as Jesus' church was. And yet his custom was he went every week in spite of the people. Don't give me excuse that you can't go to church because so-and-so is there. Nope. Jesus went in spite of so-and-so. There were tons of crunch factors in Jesus' church, but he went anyway. And he had to deal with the Pharisees. The Pharisees were only concerned about their own purity. That's what they were concerned about. Stay away from you because you're going to contaminate me, right? I can't go into a Bible study because, Bill wants to study the Bible with me, but he's a chain smoker. I can't go do the Bible study with him. I'd have to breathe all of his smoke. That's Pharisee. That's what a Pharisee would do. A Christian would say, I will go and breathe Bill's smoke. If it will get Bill to heaven, I will breathe the smoke. And God will miraculously protect my lungs. Is that true?
If he doesn't, the sacrifice is worth it.
Yeah, whatever. I had Bible studies with a lady that had tuberculosis, and she coughed on me right in my face constantly every week. I would do it again. And if I ever end up with tuberculosis as a result, if that lady is in heaven, cheap enough, right? The Pharisees only concerned about their own purity. The Herodians were concerned about pleasure. How close can we get to the very lowest denominator of the church? If I just go to church once a week and then I go out and party on Saturday night and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but drag myself back into church on Sabbath, then that was the Herodian way. Live for pleasure, but, at least look like a Christian occasionally. Jesus had to deal with them. The Sadducees were all about meticulous rules. Everything had to be exact. The sermon wasn't over at 12 o'clock. Oh, how dare you get up and walk out. You didn't follow my order of service? Horrible. You're an apostate. That was what the Sadducees were like in Jesus' day. Jesus was concerned about one thing, people. Jesus was about evangelism. And I want to talk about some of the isms in our church today. These isms will derail your work for God. No doubt about it. You might not like what I say today. I'm sorry if you don't like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I hope if I say something that you don't like, you will take it home and think about it and pray about it and just see if it's not true. The devil will do everything he can to get you involved in an ism and away from evangelism. He doesn't care what ditch you fall into, as long as you're in the ditch. Right? It doesn't matter if you're in the left ditch or the right ditch, as long as you're in the ditch. He didn't care that there were Pharisees back in Jesus' day. The Pharisees were in a ditch. They did not have the love of God in their heart. They did not know Scripture. He didn't care if there were Herodians. They were in a ditch. The Sadducees were in a ditch. Didn't matter. Satan used all of them. And he will try to get you in a ditch. So I'm going to talk about a few ditches. One ditch is perfectionism. Jesus had to face it. You have to face it. You need to understand what the issues are. In perfectionism, and you can write these verses down. We won't have time to look them all up. In Hebrews chapter 7, verse 19, it says, the law made nothing perfect. On the other hand, there is the bringing in of a better hope through which we draw near to God. Keeping laws and trying to be perfect doesn't make you perfect. You are already flawed. You cannot be perfect on your own. Here's what perfectionism does. Like it says in 2 Corinthians 10, verse 12, we compare ourselves with ourselves, and therefore we are not wise. Because here's what perfectionism does. I compare myself to Pastor Mike. Well, I don't measure up. I must be a loser. I compare myself to Vivian. Oh, well, I'm pretty good. Right? And so now I'm arrogant. Perfectionism puts me into the ditch of arrogance. Right? Oh, I compare myself to Pastor Mike. Well, I'm way better than him. So you want to know what a Christian looks like? Just look at me. That's arrogance. Arrogance is a ditch, not depending on God. Or I'm in the other ditch. I compare myself to Vivian. Well, I can't ever do what she does. I don't sing like her. I don't talk like her. I don't dress like her. I don't measure up. I don't eat like her. I must be a loser. And now I'm discouraged because I've compared myself with her. And perfectionism has us in one ditch or the other. When are you ever perfect enough? It can't happen. You could never feel perfect enough. In fact, the closer you get to Jesus, the more imperfect you will feel. Because we are imperfect. That's why we need a Savior, right? We have a perfect Savior because we're imperfect people, and we don't have to measure up. And we for sure don't have to compare ourselves to each other. That's a lose-lose. It's always a lose-lose. So perfectionism is an ism. And if you start down that path, you will end up in a ditch. And pretty soon, all you'll be doing is comparing yourself to everybody else, and you will not be doing evangelism. You'll feel like you don't need to do evangelism because nobody's going to measure up to me. That's arrogance. Or you're going to feel like, oh, I'm just too bad to do evangelism. I've just, really messed up this week. I can't go out and give the Bible study. I just had a big argument with my husband. Can't do it. That's perfectionism. Can God use you in spite of whatever? He can, and he wants to. Don't get caught up in perfectionism. This next one, I call it egalitarianism. Okay? I was at a potluck not long ago, and I sat across from a lady, and basically she said, I'm a egalitarian. Are you a egalitarian? And all I heard was egalitarian. I only eat kale. I'm being facetious. Whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do, to do all to the glory of God, not for show to people. You understand? Foodism can become a replacement for evangelism. And all we do is talk about food. So really what that lady said, and I'm all for health. I teach health classes and everything. And in their proper context, their proper place, it's a good thing to do. It is not the gospel to save us, though. So what this lady really said to me was, I sat down at the potluck and she said, "Hi, I'm vegan." I said, "Hi, I'm Angie." And every sentence she spoke had the word vegan in it for 10 minutes. There wasn't one word of Jesus. There was nothing about God. It was vegan, vegan, vegan. It would be no different than me saying, "I'm sorry I couldn't eat at your potluck today. You didn't have any kale. I only eat kale. Don't you eat kale? Why don't you eat kale? You're going to go to hell if you don't eat kale at every meal." Because I'm a kaleitarian. You should all be kaleitarians. Do you know that Americans are dying because they're not kaleitarians? See, my whole soapbox then is kaleitarianism is more important, and it is the most important thing, more important to God. And pretty soon, people don't even want to see me. They're just going to say, "Here comes the kaleitarian. Run the other way. All she's going to talk about is kale, 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 kale." But it could be anything. You know, my other word I use is the gospel of cheese. And we get on a soapbox. It could be anything, though. A while back, it was MSG. You know, I'm all for health. Learn all you can about health. That is not the gospel message, though. Jesus is the gospel message. And you can get sucked into an ism where that becomes your whole focus of being. And that's not supposed to be our whole focus of being. The good news is that people need a Savior, and his name is Jesus, not kale. And it could go the other way. You know, I know churches that their whole message is meat eating. Adventist churches, and their whole message is meat eating, and they're proud that they're a meat eating Adventist church. And they've been derailed in the other ditch. And their whole focus. We serve hot dogs and hamburgers and steak at our potluck. And that's, you know, all they talk about. You see, there's two ditches. Evangelism is about God. That will lead us to a healthier lifestyle. And teaching about a healthier lifestyle at a class is the right place to do it. But nagging every person that you ever see about being a kaleitarian is not the way. So don't go out of here saying, "Angie's all for meat eating and she's not a health evangelist." No, I am a health evangelist, and I have health classes at my home, and I have health classes in my church. And people come to health classes, guess what? They come to the class because they want to learn. But I don't go around at my work telling everybody, "Oh, you shouldn't eat that or you shouldn't eat this." Can you imagine what would have happened to Daniel in Babylon if he went around to Nebuchadnezzar every single day? "Hey, Nebuchadnezzar, you're not supposed to eat that pig. Hey, Nebuchadnezzar, why are you worshiping the sun? Hey, Nebuchadnezzar, you're not supposed to eat those snails and shrimp. Nebuchadnezzar, why are you eating that cake?" Nebuchadnezzar would not have been converted to Christianity had Daniel had that kind of ism. He didn't, although Daniel was vegan. See the difference? Another ism is humanism. And humanism takes many forms. And if you read the book of Acts settles for all time what God's opinion is about humanism. And humanism would say something like, you have to be a certain race or a certain sex or a certain nationality to be saved. The book of Acts settles for all time. It's not about body parts. It's not about sex. It's not about race. It's not about nationality, because God says there's neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female. God's opinion is the gospel is open to every single person. Doesn't matter if you're 5 or 500. It's open to everybody. God has settled the issue already, but you are going to you're going to be faced with humanism. You're going to be faced with also historical humanism, where somebody's whole message, listen to me carefully, somebody's whole message will get you sidetracked into spending all your time studying about what man has done in the past and conspiracy theories about what man has done in the past. Until you're no longer studying the Bible, you're watching DVDs and spending all your time just focused on man's errors of the past. That is a ditch. We are not called to bring people out of the world into more humanism. We're called to connect them to Jesus, which is evangelism. Don't let yourself get sidetracked. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can talk to me privately after, and I will help you out some more. Our message is the message of the Bible, not all this other. Don't let yourself be derailed there. Mark 9, verse 38 and 40, Jesus said, "Teacher, Jesus' disciples came to him and said, 'Teacher, we saw someone who does not follow us casting out demons in your name, and we forbid him because he does not follow us.' Jesus said, 'Do not forbid him, for no one who works a miracle in my name can soon afterwards speak evil of me. For he who is not against us is on our side.'" Jesus had a lot broader view than we do of people. God is using people outside of the Adventist church and inside of the Adventist church. Don't forget that. Don't be so arrogant to think that God is only speaking through somebody who has the label Seventh-day Adventist. That is not true. Jesus said, "I have sheep in other folds." Is that true? Yes. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Study truth, and when you see truth, you'll know truth. You don't have to be afraid of error. We have the blueprint right here, so we don't have to be afraid of it. But don't let yourself be derailed from the most important thing to all these other things. They're humanistic ideas. Another ism is worship-ism. I don't know a better word for this, but it will kill you. The Pharisees were caught up and the Sadducees in worship-ism. And if you have a better word, give it to me. That's the only word I could think of. That worship had to be a specific way, at a specific time, and done just the way it was always done. The Jews were really caught up in that. That there were no other methods that could be used. And that still goes around today. That worship has to look just like it did in the 1900s, or it has to look just like it did in the 1700s, that you can only sing songs that were written in the 1800s, or you can only do things the way it was. If you read the whole Bible from cover to cover, you will find very little guidelines about the structure of worship. It never once mentions 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock service. It doesn't. It doesn't mention that Sabbath school has to start at 9:30. I can't find one thing in here that says you have to walk in, sing an opening song, have a scripture reading, have a children's story, have a special music, have a kneel-down prayer, and then have a sermon. I can find no structure like that in the Bible. You understand what I'm saying? So why should we get bent out of shape and make that our gospel message? When God, it says, in various times and in various ways spoke to the children of men. Evidently, God has a lot of methods. So we shouldn't narrow God down to one method and put God in a little box just because we're comfortable. See, we get comfortable. The Jews got comfortable in their little box. They wanted to kill Jesus because Jesus was trying to get them out of their comfort box, and they wanted to kill him. It still happens today. And people will try to get you to jump in one of those ditches. of worshipism. Don't do it. It doesn't matter. Does it matter? You know, if church started at 11:05, if you came to church and there was just one long sermon from 9:30 to 12:30, it doesn't matter, does it? In fact, you know what? We're told we shouldn't even expect a sermon every week. It should be something different so that we don't get in the rut of formalism. Formalism is doing the same thing the same way all the time. How many of you eat boiled oatmeal every single day for breakfast? That's all you eat. That would be formalism. And after about day one, I'd vomit. See, we're in danger of falling into that mentality that it has to be done the same way all the time. That is a ditch that will kill worship. Because worship is living and changing and growing. It's an experience, not a formalistic thing. The last words of a dying church are, you ready for it? Drum roll. We never did it that way before. That's the last words of a dying church. Companies that don't change fold. Churches that don't change die. We need to reevaluate our church constantly. It's the only way that you can do it. How many of you still use wringer washers? We have better methods, right? When better methods come, go to better methods. If you don't, then you will fall into formalism. And the devil won't care. He'll be happy. Just get him in that comfortable form, like, sheep walking in the same path over and over and over and over, and you'll miss what God wants to give you. Legalism is a killer. I think this says it best. Here's how to become a legalist. Make rules outside of the Bible. Push yourself to try to keep the rules. Beat yourself if you don't keep the rules. Pride yourself when you do keep the rules. Judge others who don't keep the rules. Use anger to force people to do your rules. Beat the losers. That's legalism. So I have rules. We all kind of have our own code. You realize that, don't you? Like, do you squeeze the toothpaste in the middle or at the end? That's kind of your person. How many squeeze it in the middle? How many of you just want toothpaste? That's it. You don't really care. Some people are real anal about it, and they roll the toothpaste up. That's your personal code. It's not bad, is it? It's just your personal code. People have personal codes like clean up all the food on your plate. That's a personal code. That code is running in the background. Even if you're stuffed, if you have that code, you're going to eat all the food on your plate. Even if you're stuffed to the gills, you'll still eat the food because that code is running, right? Take your shoes off at the door. That's a code. You didn't take your shoes off at the door? I hate you. You broke my code. Right? You better take them off. See, he took his off. But this causes problems because we end up being mad at people because they broke our personal code. You raised your hand in church? That's my personal code. You understand? Where's that a code in the Bible? See, we're driven by our own codes. And it's a form of legalism. And then it hurts evangelism because if people don't conform to my codes, I write them off. I don't want to have anything to do with them because they're not conforming to my code.
How about your own definition about what legalism is? Because some people think legalism is following all 10 Commandments.
Okay.
It's different from what you put. Or making up your own rules would be
Well, because they don't understand the context of what it means to keep the commandments. So if you are keeping the commandments to be saved, that is legalism. Because you're not saved by keeping the commandments. But if you are saved, you will keep the commandments. It's your understanding. Any time that you are making rules that you try to enforce on other people, you are in a ditch. Because we don't make rules. God makes rules. Who am I to make rules for you? I'm just, I'm a nothing. And how could I possibly hold you to my rules? It'd be like, my husband is late coming home. And I made a rule in my head. When my husband comes home, let me reverse this. Let's say I'm here today and my husband is home. And I made a rule in my head. My rule is when I get home, there's going to be dinner waiting, candlelight dinner waiting, fresh cut flowers on the table, 15 gifts on the coffee table for me to welcome me home, and a welcome sign at the door. Okay? That's my rule. That's what I expect. Okay? Cheryl expects that when she gets home. So when I get home and my husband is sleeping on the couch and there's no dinner and there's dirty dishes in the sink and there's no flowers, what's going to happen? I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad because he did not live up to my rules. And we do this all the time in our relationships, and we do it in church. And we expect certain things to happen because it's how we've made it in our mind. And it doesn't happen that way, and we're in the ditch. Be careful. Just be careful. Don't let yourself go into that ditch. If you begin to be angry about something, stop and check. Is this your rule, or is this worth fighting for? Right? Some things are worth fighting for. But some things are just your rule, and you need to find out, is it one of God's things that we need to stand on, or is it just my own thing and my own rule? A big one is Laodiceanism. Okay? Laodiceanism is, we live in Laodicea. We're surrounded by Laodiceanism. Laodiceanism is a spectator mentality. We all have jobs. We all do stuff. And it's Pastor Mike's job to do all the church's evangelism. That's why he gets paid. It's not our job. All Bible studies, he should do. All church issues, he should do. All peacemaking, he should do. All difficulties, he should do. Visiting people that don't make it to church, he should do. Because we're spectators. Not our job. It's not what the Bible says. It is a ditch, though. And the devil wants you to be in that ditch. The other part of Laodiceanism is materialism. I don't need anything. I don't need to go out and do Bible studies. Well, sir, I'm comfortable right here. I'm happy in my church. Why would I go out and beg trouble? I'm happy coming to church, prayer meeting, Sabbath school, potluck. I'm comfortable. Why should I do anything else? I'm happy. It's a materialistic attitude that I don't need to do that. I'm telling you, that is a ditch. And if you've ever felt that way, you need to get out of that ditch and get out of your comfort zone and go try something. You know what? What do you have to fear to go out into the community? Let's say go door to door and offer Bible studies, or go out and do a Bible study, or go out and preach an evangelistic meeting, or have a small group in your home where you do some kind of Bible study that you lead out in. What do you have to fear? Is fear an excuse not to do it? Afraid not. You can never use fear as an excuse because God said, don't even worry about what you're going to say. The Holy Spirit will give you the words to say. I'm sorry, you can't use fear as an excuse. What about, well, I don't know enough. I don't have the personality for that. Is that a good excuse? Moses tried it. Didn't work, did it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. God can use you. It doesn't matter. If you feel like you can be used or not, God can still use you. Look at all the people in the Bible. I'm just a child, God. You can't use me. Yes, you can. I can't speak well, God. You can't use me. Yes, I can. Right?
He just got his brother to come along then.
That's right. God can still use you. He can team us up, and he'll use us anyway. Atheism isolates people outside of the church. Atheists stay away from the church. Laodiceanism isolates people within the church, and people stay in the church. There's really no difference, is there? We're either isolated away from the church or we're isolated within the church. And I'm pretty sure we don't believe in monasteries. Right? We don't, do we? And yet we can spend our whole life in the church, not going out and working in the world. And that's not what God's called us to do. You know, how many of you are Chiefs fans? Green Bay Packers? All right, yay, Green Bay Packers. If you watch football or baseball, you're a spectator, right? And spectators, what do when you're watching the game? You cheer for your team, and what else do you do? You yell. And you see all the faults. Oh, they cheated us. The refs were wrong. Did you see that? The refs were wrong. Oh, that guy hit that guy. And we look for the faults, and we know everything. Like we've read the rule book, and we know everything there is to know about it. And people are screaming and yelling at the referees and yelling at the other team, and sure they got cheated, when probably 99% never read the rule book, don't know that much about it. But they're spectators. They think they know about it. And that's kind of how it is in the church. Unless you're out on the front lines, don't criticize people that are out on the front lines. You have no idea. I would dare say you have no idea what your pastor goes through unless you've been a pastor. You have no idea what your pastor's wife goes through unless you've been a pastor's wife, or what your head elder is dealing with, or what whoever is dealing with. We are too hard on each other. We're way too hard on each other. And if we stopped and thought for a moment, maybe where each other are coming from, we would be a little more understanding of each other. And we need to be, and less critical of each other. The only ism really worthy of our time, the only thing you should put your soapbox down for is evangelism. We live and breathe and have our being on evangelism. That's what we're here for. That is our mission. Matthew 28, verse 19 and 20, go teach all nations. If you look in Revelation 14, verse 6, it says this gospel should be preached to the whole world, right? With a loud voice to every nation. What does that mean? Every nation, every kindred, every tongue, every people. Why did God use those 4 words? Every nation, every kindred, every tongue, every people. Why? Okay, but why? Like, the whole world would include everybody. Why nation? Why kindred? Why tongue? Why people? Right? If he would have just said the whole world, it would have included everybody. Go look it up. Get a concordance and look up what the word nation and kindred and tongue and people mean in the original language. And see if God doesn't speak to your heart something about what your mission is. And then when you find out what your mission is, do it with all your heart. Evangelism is one person hanging on to God, reaching down to another person that's not hanging on to God, and bringing their hand up to join. That's what Jesus did. He was the master evangelist, wasn't he? He reached down to me so that I could reach up to God. And that's all God's asking you to do. Be my evangelist. Reach out to people for me. Help them connect to me. That's what evangelism is. Anything else is a sidetrack. And the devil will get you in a sidetrack. He will get you in a ditch if you will let him. Don't let him. Be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. John the Baptist really had it right. Look in the book of John. He was the greatest evangelist, the greatest prophet. So we ought to be able to learn something from John. John chapter 1. There's 3 things I want to talk about John. If you get these 3 things down, you will be an effective evangelist if you understand these 3 things. John chapter 1, verse 27. Here's what John said. It is he who coming after me is preferred before me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to loose. What was John's opinion about himself? According to that verse. What was his opinion about himself? Not worthy. Not worthy. Are you worthy? You are worth something, but you're not worthy. Here's what I say. I've said this all my years of being a Bible worker. It's important for you to remember. You can even say it with me after I say it. Here's what I say. I am not the Savior. Right? Say it with me. I am not the Savior. You need to remember that if you're going to work with people, because you cannot save people. They have to choose Jesus. You cannot save your family. Some of you beat yourselves up because maybe your kids or your spouse or whatever doesn't follow God. You are not their Savior. You can witness, you can talk about Jesus. That's all you can do. They have to make the ultimate decision. You can be a witness. You cannot be the Savior. We're not worthy of the job. We don't have what it takes. Look at verse 34. I have seen and testified that this is the Son of God. You need to own that verse. I don't know everything, but this one thing I know, I've seen Jesus and I know he's God. Right? Can you say that? I've seen Jesus and I know he's God. That makes you a witness. And it wasn't just 25 years ago or 10 years ago. I saw Jesus this morning. I talked to Jesus this morning. I listened to Jesus this morning. It's a present thing, isn't it? A testimony and being a witness is not something that happened 10 years ago. Your testimony is what you're experiencing with Jesus right now in the present, not just 10 years ago or 100 years ago. Oh, 100 years ago. Well, what happened today? So John the Baptist, he knew he wasn't worthy. He knew he wasn't the Savior. He knew Jesus. He knew the Savior. And the third thing, in chapter 3, verse 28, in John 3:28, you yourselves bear me witness that I said, I am not the Christ, but I have been sent before him. He knew he wasn't the Savior, but he knew he had a mission for the Savior. And I hope each of you know that you have a mission for God. God has called you as a mission. It might not be the same style of mission that I have, but the mission is the same. Seek and save the lost. By next year at this time, God wants you to have some people lined up in that pew with you. No doubt about it. He wants me to have some people lined up beside me, accounted for in the kingdom. No doubt about it. If you have never won anybody to Jesus or connected anybody to God up to this point in your Christian life, that's God's mission for you. He wants to use you to connect somebody to Him. There's no greater joy in the whole wide world than seeing the light in somebody's eye when they connect to God. There's nothing like it. It's what we're called to do. It's what we're all about as a Christian church. It's what discipleship is. That's what you're called to do. That's what God expects of you. And it's not about you and your ability. It's about your willingness to let God use you. And He will use you if you will let Him. Do you have any questions about these isms?
I agree with what you said about we're not the saviors, especially within the family. And my question is, when you have that relationship with your family members already, you don't have to go through that process of small increments to get there. Because how do you approach them without being also frontal with your feet so they can get a chance to know, like, you know, equipment and you pay that back, or we could approach you in 3 years? How do you
That is a great question. So you already have a lot of rapport with your family. So how do you get to the point where you can share Jesus with them without being confrontational? You know, Jesus had a problem with that himself. You know that, right? He had a hard time witnessing to his own family because they already knew so much about him. And his brothers didn't believe yet. They did eventually, but they didn't believe yet. So the Bible says, have an answer to give to those who ask you. So you're studying, you're spending time with God, you're digesting and processing these big truths of the Bible. And all you can do is live your life and hope that your family will come to the point where they're asking you questions. But you can ask questions back. So when things happen, here's what I do. My family are not all Christians. What I've done over the years is I've asked questions back. So things happen, and I say, where do you think God is? You think He has anything to do with this? My mom, since I became a Christian, my mom has become a Christian. My 2 sisters have become Christians. Still working on my stepdad. But he's opening up and stuff. All you can do is ask questions and be patient. Think how patient Daniel was with Nebuchadnezzar. 40 years of patience. God is not a rapist. You need to remember this. He is not a rapist. He does not force truth on us. He gives us space to grow, and we need to have the same kind of character as that, so we're not pushing and forcing. If you try to push and force people, you'll end up pushing them away. And the people that you love the most, you should push the least, because you certainly don't want to push away your family. So you try to share, you try to get into their world as much as you can, be in their world. If, you know, my dad, he heats with wood. Every opportunity I get, I go cut wood and stack wood at his house, trying to be whatever he needs me to be, to show love. That's what you can do, show love. That's what Jesus did. And, you know, be the best that you can be in your family. If you have a non-believing husband or a non-believing wife, be the best spouse that you can possibly be. Let your spouse know that your relationship with Jesus makes you a better wife. that your relationship with Jesus makes you a better husband, or it makes you a better son, or a better daughter, or a better father, or a better mother. One day, my kids just were horrible at the table. And I had taught them, that Jesus helped me every day. And they spilled their milk and did a bunch of stuff when they were little. And my son looked at me and he said, "Mom, are you with Jesus today?" I mean, he wanted to know if Jesus was going to make a difference in how I acted toward him. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm with Jesus. Lucky you." Our relationship with God should make a difference, right? It totally should. And our family ought to be able to see that, but it takes time to process that. And it did in Jesus' family too. But it's hard. We love them so much and we want them to know. It's hard. It's hard to bite your tongue sometimes. Sometimes, bite your lip if you have to. Don't say the thing that they're not asking for. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes?
I was just picturing either Leonardo da Vinci's, I'm not sure what it's called, God Man or something. Both when you said God or Jesus is reaching out to us and that we need to reach out and grab the wrists of those that we're saving. I don't know what his inspiration was, so I didn't do it that way. But
That is a cool picture, that one where God's reaching down with his finger.
yeah, and the man is limp, his wrist is limp. He isn't even really reaching, it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Not that the picture is necessarily all that beautiful, but the idea behind it.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And it's a true idea. Why else does God need us? Why doesn't he just finish the work without us? Why are we called to be witnesses in Matthew 28? Why are we called to go teach people and reach people?
He wants us desperate.
Because it's a true fact. People reach people. That's why Jesus became a human. People are looking for, is there anybody left who really believes in God? And Jesus said that was going to be a danger. At the end of the world, would there be anybody left who has faith? That's what Jesus said. And I'm like, yes, right? Don't you want to just scream out? Yes, there's somebody left that has faith right here. Chapel Oaks Church, these people have faith. They haven't given up on God. They're hanging in there. They're not going to quit. Any other thoughts or questions? Does this whole ism thing make sense to you? Do you see how these are ditches? There have always been in the world two paths: the true path of God and isms. And they're competing for attention. And you're either going to stay focused on the truth of God, or your attentions and time and energies are going to be put over there. Back in the Old Testament it was sun gods and statues, and they took the place of God. Today it's more theories. It's more theories that replace God. And it's materialism that's replacing God. And we're too busy for God. And we're too busy for God's work. Or we're so caught up in all these other things. I don't have time for the Bible because I got 40 DVDs to watch in a series. So just be careful. Yes?
Really appreciate your example during, I think it was a sermon today, you mentioned you were just, I don't know, in the neighborhood or, I guess you were in the district doing the streets. So you offered to have prayer. Is that what you were doing door to door that day?
Mm-hmm.
Prayer?
Right.
What are some of the other successful methods you used if you just went door to door? What have you found successful? What do you say?
So some of the things I do door to door is I just go to door, and what I said today is I say, my name is Angie. Get a group, I call it church and rescue, and I do a whole weekend training on church and rescue, what to do out in the community. So I'll give you a 5-minute snippet of that. But I've given you a little bit. Church needs to be a certain way, a safe place for God to bring babies, right? That's church. Rescue is us going out as a church intentionally. So what I try to get churches to do is, if you did this, you could cover a lot of territory in a short period of time. And all God is asking us to do is go out into the world and give people a chance to learn about Him, right? The gospel is going to go to the whole world to give people a chance. I feel like it's our responsibility as a church to go out into our community and give people a chance to hear about God. So there's a few things that you could try. Go out 1 hour. Just think, if all of us, how many people, like 40 people? If we all went out for 1 hour every other Sabbath, only 2 hours a month. If we all did that and went out for 1 hour, just think how many homes we could. It would be a lot, wouldn't it? And if we went just for that 1 hour, and let's say some of us went door to door and we just said, hey, we're just a group of Christians out here and we're offering to pray for your requests, whatever you need, we'll pray for it. We believe in God and that God answers prayer. And some of us are going to get together and we're going to pray for whatever your needs are. I'm telling you, I've prayed for bunions, hemorrhoids, cancer, soldiers, winning of football games. I prayed for all kinds of things. And I've had people say, I never heard of such a thing. What church do you go to? I say, the Adventist church. Like, wow, that's awesome. What are you doing? You're spreading PR for God, right? If anybody ever hears of Adventists again, guess what they're going to say? Oh, those are people that go around door to door praying for people. That's pretty awesome. And you will find people that really have needs. The biggest benefit of this is you are getting out into the community and seeing needs in your community that you didn't know were there. I went door to door just doing that prayer thing. I knocked on the door. No answer. The door was cracked open a little. I would never do this. I'm kind of a shy person, actually. I would never do this. I opened the door. I pushed it open. And I hollered, anybody home? I heard nothing. I took 2 more steps inside of the stranger's house. Would you do it? It had to be a God thing. I took 2 more steps. Anybody home? And I heard this little voice, help me. And I walked in the house, just walked right in, went into the kitchen. Here's this little old lady, all crippled with arthritis, sitting in her wheelchair. Her wheelchair had a flat tire. She couldn't move it. Her hands were too crippled. She'd been sitting there for a whole day, since the day before, like 24 hours, had wet herself and everything. It was a Sabbath afternoon. I picked her out of her chair, put her on the couch, cleaned her up, took her wheelchair downtown to a gas station, paid to have the wheel fixed on Sabbath because I'm helping this lady. Take her wheelchair back, put her back in her wheelchair. Guess what? I ended up doing Bible studies with that lady and her sister who lived next door. Just because I saw a need and God put me in that situation to see a need and help. I never would have met that lady had I not been going door to door, just doing that. So the biggest thing it'll do is not only will you meet people, your eyes will be opened to the harvest. I went door to door, knocked on the door. The lady said, oh, I need prayers. I'm 24/7 taking care of my husband who's dying. I'm like, I'd be happy to pray for you. I got her first name, and I said, is it okay if I call you next week? She said, sure. So I wrote her phone number down. I have one name and a phone number. In a week, I call her up, hey, how you doing? I'm that crazy girl that was on your porch. I've been praying for you all week. How's it going? Oh, I so much appreciate your prayers. Will you meet me at McDonald's for a Coke? I'm like, okay. I'm like, name the time and the place. I will stop work. I'll do whatever because I'm making myself available to God, right? I would gladly miss a day of work and a day of pay if somebody would be in the kingdom. Would you? So I met her at McDonald's. She started talking to me. I listened to her. I started telling her things about God, trying to encourage her. Finally, she got this little gleam in her eye. Are you a Seventh-day Adventist? And I said, yes, I am. I'm a pastor's wife even. She's like, oh, my word. She's go to the Adventist church 25 years ago. Never would have met that lady if I didn't go door to door. She ended up coming back to church. Simple thing, cost nothing, right? Except for a little time. So that's one thing. It's very effective and helpful for your church. It will give you different eyes. If you go work with that person and they walk through the door, they're your child. You are going to protect them and guard them and help them and encourage them, right? Another thing is just take like Amazing Facts, lessons 1 through 5. Just practical topics people have questions about. Take one of those door to door, knock on the door. Hey, I'm Angie. We're passing these Bible studies out in the neighborhood. You can give it a try. If you like it, we'll come back in a couple of weeks and see if you liked it and give you another one. Easy, low key. People say, oh, okay, I'll try it. So you know where you're standing, write the address down, 427 Monticello. Write the address down, and in 2 weeks, when you're going out for your hour, you take them the next lesson. Hey, how'd you like the lesson? Oh, that was awesome. Give me another one. Or I didn't get a chance to read it yet. Well, are you going to read it? Do you want to read it? I do want to read it. Okay, cool. I'll come back in 2 weeks. You'll be amazed how many people you will meet. We had on our team 2 people go out door to door doing that with the Bible studies. This lady took the Bible studies. They went back the next week, gave her another one. Went back the next week, gave her another one. 2 men. Then the next time that we went out, the 2 guys couldn't go. So I went in their place. And when I went, the lady answered the door and she said, oh, please come in. She had not invited them in. She said, please come in. I went in. I sat down on her couch. She said, shh. I don't want my husband to know I invited you in. He will kill you. I'm like, what? I'm like, what did I just walk into? She said, he's so protective of me. Look at my throat. Her throat was gashed open right here, hideous, with maybe 30 or 40 stitches. She said he took a beer bottle and slammed it into my throat recently. Right? I'm like swallowing. Please help me, God. Please help me, God. I started talking to her about Jesus in a whisper. No, she wouldn't have said that to the guys. She wouldn't have invited them in. He would have went ballistic. She felt safer inviting this little midget in. Right? As the weeks went on, I visited her again and again. She got into counseling and got help, so she wasn't just a punching bag for her husband, who was way out of control, would have killed her, I'm sure. I have no doubt he would have killed her. You're going to meet all kinds of needs. Here's the thing to remember. On a scale of 0 to 10, if you meet somebody and they're, let's say, 0, don't care about God at all, don't even believe in God, and 10 is, beam me up, Scotty, I'm ready for translation. Okay? So everybody you meet, all of us, we're somewhere on that scale. If I meet somebody and they're a 1, and because of their relationship with me and the things I share with them, they move from a 1 to a 1.5 closer to God. They're not baptized, they're not going to church, but they've moved that one step closer to God. Am I a successful evangelist? Yes. Totally successful. So don't ever be discouraged if you don't see the results you want. It's not about the results you want. It's about the results for that person. For that person, going from a 1 to a 1.5 might be huge. Going from a 0 to a 1 might be huge, huge step. And you've totally nailed it for God. And when you get to the kingdom of heaven, he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. He's going to say that to you. And you say, what did I do? I don't even know what I did. But God knows. And there's no work that you can do for God that's going to return void. The Bible says whatever you do for God, it's going to prosper and it's going to work. You might never see it, though, so don't be discouraged. Yes?
Yeah, that was exactly what that. Like, we don't see the results, but you don't know if you're preparing the ground for somebody else to talk to them, and they'll think back to you. Like, he was a good witness, and he'll be able to have a connection with that new person that also shares that faith that with the other person you knew. So
That's right.
when you think about that, you don't get as discouraged as when you say that I don't see the results right now. So.
The parable that Jesus told of the sower, what percentage of the seed grew and produced fruit?
I think a third. I think a third fell in each of the holes and a third fell in the middle.
It was 25%. Read the parable again. 25% of the seed prospered. That means 75% of what the sowers did was failure. If you're going to work for God, you need to understand this one thing. You're going to sow a lot of seed, and you're going to do a lot, and it's going to feel like failure a lot of times because we do live in this war zone. You're going to hold evangelistic meetings, and you're not going to get the return that you expect. You're going to send out mailings of Bible study cards. You're not going to get the return that you expect. It's going to seem like more failure in our eyes because we're very success-oriented. And it's going to seem like more failure in our eyes. But in God's eyes, he's not looking at the results of the work. He's looking for faithful workers. What he wants you to do is keep doing the work regardless of results. That means you go door to door. That means you go out and give Bible studies. That means you have evangelistic meetings. You have cooking schools. You have all the things that you do. And you keep on doing it till the end of the world. And you're not going to get discouraged by it. I've gone to 98 houses in a day and had no response from any person in 98 houses. But when I went to house number 99, that person accepted Jesus. You never know. So what if I had gotten discouraged and not gone to house number 99? You know, what if the 75 houses that I went to the day before and got no response at all in the whole day, what if I didn't go back out the next day? You keep doing the work. Faithful servants keep doing the work no matter what happens. That's what God's called us to do. Any other thoughts or questions? Has this been helpful? Are you going to study the Bible like never before? Are you going to be willing to be on your church's team to go do something in the harvest? Not just in the church, do something in the harvest. And I know your pastor has a passion for that. And your church, this is the first time I've ever been to your church. I love your church. It's awesome. You have a great spirit here, friendly. People are friendly. You walk in the door, you're just greeted with a lot of friendship happening. And it's nice. I had even kids saying hi to me, and I'm a stranger. And that's good. That's what you want, a climate where people can come in and feel like they belong. Right? That's what you want. That's awesome. It's great. You're a step ahead of the game already. Now go do something in the harvest and then keep doing it. Pastor, you want to have closing prayer?
Thank you again for coming. I know life is very busy for you. Have
My pleasure. That would be awesome. Wouldn't it be great? Can I just say something? Wouldn't it be great if in the metro area we all work together? I mean, that really is Bob and I's vision, and I talked to Pastor Mike about that before. I mean, really, all of us together would have a synergy that we could do something bigger for God in the metro area, one of the highest populated places in the whole Midwest. We live right here. We could do more together than we could do separately as our little churches. So
Pastor Eddie in your district got the ball rolling, and I guess you could call it elsewhere. So I know the spirit of the other pastors in the metro area were very open to that. So
awesome. So maybe we'll be doing that in the future.
after closing prayer, I do want to make an offer. I have 6 cards so far. We may get some more. I pray that you get some more, because we've sent out 13,000, all right? These are Bible study literacy cards, and like Angie said, they don't let fear stop you. If you feel that little inkling inside, like you'd like to give this a try, then don't let fear dissuade you from that. I have 3 or 4 different types of Bible studies that you can use. Talking about that. Every one of these had a help offer. Now I have a set of help tracks that go along with this. But all the materials will be provided for you at the church here. Not a problem. I'll be glad to coach you. I'd be glad to tag along with you if you need that much assistance. And you may have somebody else that's willing to tag along, or I don't know. Or wherever you might be able to tag along. You want, or if you just have a friend, you think, I can do it, but I can't go alone. Grab a friend, have fun together, put it together. And if you need any coaching or information that you don't understand about even Bible study, Annie's done a great job today. I need to really summarize because this is how you do a Bible study. Again, if you have questions or need more help, I've got probably more resources than you can ever read in a lifetime. And I'll do whatever I can to encourage you. But there's 6 cards here. I might add, one of these cards is a post office box. You will not be able to make your visit. But this just made me write up someone's ballot that says, and I had someone want, if someone were to take that one, I'll probably have someone wanted that may ask to do this, probably think it's a personal study of right from home. But if there's someone here that would like to do correspondence with the post office box, rather than send them all at one time, I'd like to see us do two, three lessons at a time through the mail.
I would say 2.
Okay, 2 lessons at a time through the mail, and then words of encouragement, nice little note each time that so after prayer, if you're interested, I will have you, I have duplicates of the card here. I want to make sure that you sign in anybody so I can keep track of which card is up and keep in touch.
When you get these cards in the mail,
If you don't follow up on that interest, Jehovah's Witnesses will. And I've gone to churches as a Bible worker and dug out piles of these cards that have come to the church. And maybe they're 2 years old or 1 year old or 6 months old. And I've gone and followed up thousands of cards like that. And if we're not on top of it and respond to these requests that people have, the devil will respond. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've gone to people's homes that send in a card, and I'm like, hey, I'm Angie, you sent this card in. Oh, well, I already am studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, or I'm already studying with, whoever. So it's really important to strike while the iron's hot.
Thank you. So anyway, love to see you afterwards, and I'll have a pen up here and these sheets, and we can talk about materials too. So let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for the opportunity and privilege of working together with you in this partnership. It's hard to believe that someone as big, as great, and powerful and mighty as you are would choose to team up with someone like us. So thank you for the privilege. Thank you for these precious people that have responded to this invitation to study the Bible. And I ask you to continue to work on their hearts, match them up with just the right people
have your Spirit upon us, but greater hunger in our hearts to reach people.